Welcome, Cancer Warriors. My name is Tanya, and this is Power Cantalou's podcast. And today we have with us Susan Goodrich. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so glad to have you here. Can
Oh,
you please let everybody know what your zone of genius is?
ooh, my zone of genius. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Tanya, for having me here as a guest. I really appreciate that. And may I serve some valuable information with your clients and
Absolutely.
so that's why I'm here. Hopefully I can, share something that will bring light to their lives. I am a transformational life coach, and I call myself Susan Goodrich, the Good Witch, kind of a play on a play on words. And I'm really here to tell you that it's never too late to make your dreams come true. A little bit about my story is that I actually help clients create their dreams. And one of the reasons that I do that is because my life experience was able to bring my children into the world at the age of 53. Because before that, I didn't have the resources, I didn't have a partner, I had nothing. And then life just started to organize around my success. And at that age, it just all sort of fell into place.
It's
But it was
amazing.
because of my journey, right?
So let's talk about your journey.
Okay, so in my 20s, things kind of fell apart. I always thought I was going to have kids, and I had been, I know you and I had talked about this before, about this sort of ray of hope that showed up for me. And it was after having been in a relationship. Obviously my psyche was telling me I wasn't to be there, and I ended up betraying my partner, which I felt horrible about. It was so not in my sense of that's what I would ever do to someone. And so I left because I couldn't forgive myself, and I left. And so I became homeless because I was living out of my car. And through that, the people that we had worked with, because we had worked in the same industry and had a lot of social connections that were similar, I was shunned by very much many of those people in that community and felt really alone. And it was only a few months later, after having been on antidepressants, probably drinking more alcohol than I should have, that I found out that I was pregnant. And I had to have that baby removed from my being. I found myself lying on the floor at my sister's place after having been at the hospital, and I was all alone. They had gone to work. I was lying on the floor, and I thought this was the end. It really felt like it was the end.
Yeah.
And then in that one moment, it was like this little ray of hope that showed up. It was like, whoa, there must be something more. There was that. And it was like a way of surrendering. That's what I felt. It was like I had surrendered. I didn't collapse. I just surrendered.
Yeah. It's a hard part of your life, right? Like when you have a traumatic experience and it really stops everything, right? Like it is like being punched in the face. You can't breathe and you feel off kilter and you have to figure out how to rebalance yourself. It's exactly how I felt when I got diagnosed, right? When my doctor said that I had cancer. I so I can completely relate to how you felt at that moment. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine what, like just it's like having the rug pulled out from underneath you.
Yes, like you're cruising along, everything is wonderful, and then you get hit by a bus. The trauma bus is what I call it, and
Mm.
it really, uh, it upsets the apple cart, and it takes you a little while to figure out where all the apples are and if you want them back and to rebuild.
Yeah. And then sometimes sometimes it takes us a really long time. It took me a very long time to do that. I buried I don't know, I've not done the cancer journey, but I don't know if there's shame that shows up in any of that
Hmm. There's guilt. There's
guilt.
survivor's guilt. There can be shame. Like, did I do stuff to cause this to myself? Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know that with my journey was that I went to shame, right? And I buried myself in my work. And in that process, I became numb, literally numb, right? I became a head. I was not connected to my body. Um, I worked in the engineering field, and so it was easy for me to just live here and not here, right?
Yeah.
I was not connected to my being. And it wasn't until I started my journey through, I was introduced to Jungian analysis in my late 30s. At the time when I thought I would never have children, I thought I was too old. And then, yeah, like I just thought I was done. And so I started my business. I did some vision questing. Started getting involved in women's circles, doing some dream group, and then really I want to say, found my people. I found these spiritual women's groups because I think when we go through those really hard times, we lose our sense of the connection to the divine. I mean, I've run into a number of people who have had severe illnesses and who were very spiritual people before it happened, and they lost their trust.
It is like it's a test of faith, but also I mean there's a lot that goes in it. There really, really is. Um, and having community, having connection is I mean, we need it. We absolutely require it as humans. We need to know that we're not alone. We need to know that we're part of a village or a tribe, and we need to know that there are people that have us when we fall down. That is so important to helping us get back on our feet. And I had one moment, one the worst day, the absolute worst day of my life, like worse than the day I lost my father, right? So I
Mm.
got up, I had to put my 18-year-old cat down, and then I went in for round two of chemo. And I have to preface this by saying that when your oncologist asks you a question and you don't know what he's offering you, don't just say no, ask questions. So he asked me if I had wanted a power port, and I didn't know what it was, so I said no. He didn't tell me what it was, so both of us are responsible for this. But basically, after my first round of chemo, all of my veins shriveled, right? Like that's what happens with chemo. The purpose of the port is it's a medical device that they put into your skin, and that's what they use to put the IV in instead of your veins. So
Mm.
I didn't have any veins. So when I went into the hospital, it took an emergency room nurse 45 minutes to put an IV in me. And they're experts at that, right? Like absolute experts at that. And right before she was able to get that IV in me, I said, Goddess, I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. If she does not make this next stick, I'm out of here. I cannot handle the pain. And so for me, like divinity came through, spirit came through, or luck, like whatever you want to call it. But I believe that divinity heard me and helped me in that one moment, and I needed it the most at that moment. Um, so I was able to maintain my spirituality throughout my entire cancer journey. And I understand what kind of blessing that is. And I know that not everybody receives that kind of confirmation when they ask for it, because the divine works in their ways, and we don't always they don't always hear us when we need them to.
Well, I love the word that you just used, which was ask, because I think what happens sometimes is that we forget to ask, or maybe we never learned how to ask.
Mm.
And I think, we maybe go along and feel like there's something there, and it just kind of kind of happens to us, instead of dropping into that curiosity and saying, I wonder how, and allowing, right? Allowing the creativity or that deep listening of wondering, what is it that I need to do next? That's the piece I think that goes missing sometimes. We forget to ask, or we're never taught.
No, we're
We're
not taught that.
supposed to pray to, but not pray for, right? Or ask for, right? For ourselves, we're allowed to pray and bless everyone else, but what about ourselves, right?
I have a problem with traditional religions in the dogma of them, and the fact that they put a mediator between you and the divine, right? Like, everybody's relationship with God is deeply personal. We don't require a mediator unless we ask for one, right? Like, so, and I think that the middleman gets in the middle, gets in the way, and there's no real actually, nobody's actually taught at a young age how to develop a relationship with God without that middleman, right? And so I agree with you. It's in the lack of learning, and a lot of us have to stumble across it on our own, or find spirituality outside of traditional religions. And I think there's a difference between spirituality and religion.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, spirituality is where we can learn to truly connect and align. I call it align with the divine, right? Where we really feel connected. I mean, there are ways that we can shift our body to feel that connection. Right. I mean, we think about the nervous system. I was thinking writing this morning about, oh, what are some of the acronyms that I could play with, right? Because we talk about the sympathetic nervous system, which when you're first given a diagnosis like cancer, I can imagine you're in that fight or flight, that anxious, I call it the A system, right? Where your adrenaline is running like crazy through your body, but you can't connect to the divine when you're in that situation. You need to, first of all, come into what we call the parasympathetic. And so I call it the peace, right? Where you're peaceful, right? You're in pleasure, you're able to relax, right? You're able to bring your body, I call it bringing your body back online, really. And then to be able to connect with the divine, for me, what I get is that when we have, and I know this can be very hard when you're crumpled, right, in fear, but if you can bring your body back online, and I have a little meditation that actually I can share later with your crew to, that they can use to kind of bring their body back online. But what we want to do is third, to connect with our higher power or the divine or God, whatever you call it, is if you can breathe yourself up into a state where your spine is straight. So the cranial fluid, the cranial sacral fluid, right? The sacred fluid can flow in your body. It actually feels like you're then connected. That's been my experience. I go in, I feel really connected to the divine. It's when I'm really in alignment. Like I mean, I think the alignment with the divine is like so pertinent when I speak about that. That's that's one of the ways that connecting in that way where, and then asking, because then it literally brings what in PQ intelligence, and it's something I've studied, is it actually brings our into all of our intelligence back online. We are so much more brilliant when we're when we're online. I mean, really, we have access to infinite intelligence when we're like that.
Yeah, like there are like we all know that when we're not hydrated, didn't get a good night's sleep, and we know that we're not functioning at a more optimal level. I'm there right now. Like tomorrow is my biopsy, and over the last several months, the brain gremlins have been kept at bay for the most part, but right now they're a little gremlin-y, and it is super challenging to remain with a positive mindset and not break down into the fear that this is cancer. We're just it is a suspicious activity that we need to investigate, and the oncologist that looked at it says, she's like, I'm 80% sure you're good, so we're just going to look at it as a precaution and put you on the list. And so yeah, like situations affect that. Our hydration levels affect that. The nutrients we put into our body affect that. Apparently sitting up straight affects that.
Well, I really get you, because literally the other day I had a super busy weekend, and on I had bought myself a bottle of wine, and I thought, oh, I had bought one on Friday because I thought I wanted one that had a little bit more full body, because I'd been drinking some of this wine that didn't have a little. Anyways, I drank the entire bottle. I really just needed to rest. And I was like, what on earth did I do? And the next day I felt so horrible, and I was crumpled, and I was like, and then it took me a while, because this other process that I use is I call it my emotional alchemy, where I'm able to create, like, bring in that powerful, compassionate part of myself and have a relationship with that part of myself that just wasn't feeling very well, and then be able to figure out what it is that I really needed. Because when we're in it, it's really hard to do that. And those are what I think that those are why we need some of those tools and those processes to bring us back, right? Because otherwise I mean, I was like, what? I am such a mess. I mean, I was crumpled on the couch, right? Because what have I done to my body? I was exhausted. I was dehydrated. I was
Yes, and maybe next time that you have a bottle of wine, you will think twice about drinking the entire thing in one sitting, right?
I can't
Like,
even believe I drank the whole thing. I must have been unconscious about something else that was going on. And I was, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's like,
I
oh, so much for self-care. Yeah. Anyways, but I was able to kind of rejuvenate myself. And it's amazing with the work that I've done, with the processes that I've worked with, is how much faster I recover from situations. Because doing the transformational work, when we take those old stories, because we can get into those old sticky stories that tell us that we're not good enough, and we didn't do things right, and we can be, beat ourselves up. And when we learn to create a powerful relationship with ourselves, to be able to hold that part of ourselves that's in pain and love ourselves anyways, even if we did make a mistake, because we are human. I know
we
I
are,
am.
yeah.
Right? We're gonna do it. We're human.
It's how we learn, it's how we grow. So fail faster, honestly. Like you make the mistakes, get up, dust yourself off, and now you know one way not to do it. It's just it's about how your mindset. It is about your mindset. And
I
it's
also think your heart set. I think we have to set our heart, like when we forget to connect with our heart, when we forget to connect with what we really long for, right? If we can connect with this and we say, what is it that I want to fall in love with? Then it starts to shift what we're thinking.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but you can also, so like you can't control the situation. You can only control how you respond to the situation. And I do think that your heart does absolutely play a part in it, but you know, for me, okay, so like when I was originally diagnosed, I was hit by that trauma bus, but having the right support network and already having a mindset of, well, this is not going to work for me. I have no intention of dying. I have too much to do. And literally fighting for my life, right? And making the conscious decision every day with my visualization, which, if you've been here for a minute, you know that I visualized every morning that I would put on a pair of Wonder Woman's underwear because Wonder Woman doesn't die. That was the active, the actively deciding to live, right? The physical representation of that. So I think mindset is where you start everything. It's up here, right? Like you start with mindset, and then you build these other tools to put in your toolbox because you need them all. We talk about holistic, we mind, body, spirit here a lot because you need to work on all of that to be a whole person. And it's not easy.
And
And it
nobody ever said this was going to be easy.
and
Why was it
it
supposed to be easy?
it's a
No,
never ending process either, right? Like
right.
because once you break through something, there is another challenge for you. Otherwise, you'd be bored to death, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. If life was too easy, it would be kind of boring. Yeah.
It would be kind of
Well, and we
boring.
wouldn't grow. Like, I mean, we grow from our challenges, right? We grow from those. Just think of how many women I know who have done the cancer journey and how much stronger they are in the end, how they've grown through that.
Stronger. You
Strong.
know, a lot of cancer survivors don't like the word strong
Well, oh, curious. Why is that?
because we're not strong. We're doing the necessary thing. Like we see it as a necessary thing. Resilience,
Mhm.
um, because honestly, we don't feel strong, especially when we're going through
Oh,
that period. Like we're exhausted all the time. Uh, we can't eat. We can't keep anything down. We're always nauseous or throwing up. Everything smells weird. Our bodies aren't functioning the way that we are used to them functioning. Um, I like the word strong, but I have been challenged with it multiple times with other survivors, and absolutely see the point. Yeah, like so
yeah, because they
resilient.
can't they can't even relate to that when they're in the process, right?
No, no, absolutely not. It is a foreign word. Uh, you, it, necessary actions like determination, things like that, right? uh, feel more genuine or authentic to the experience.
Yeah. I think the word I was using the word strong as being those who I've known who've come through it. Like on the other side, you're stronger, maybe not during, right? Maybe not, certainly not during.
It 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 does it does bring about some empowerment. It it definitely brings more gratitude and grace. When I tell people that I'm grateful that I made it through my cancer journey and I'm grateful for who I am now, they get a little like you're grateful you had a cancer journey, and I'm like, well, I not at the time I certainly wasn't, but I'm a much better person now than who I was before. And you're talking about growth. And I'm not saying anybody deserves to go through this. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying here at all. But if you get this challenge assigned to you, it offers you the opportunity to grow. And I have seen individuals personally from my past who got a cancer diagnosis and decided that they were okay with their diagnosis and they're not here anymore. Like they didn't want to fight, and not knowing the shoes that they walked in, you can't make any judgments on it. All you can do is support their decision, whether you like it or not, right? It's it's challenging. It's rough, and not everybody has the wherewithal to continue fighting. And there's the quality versus quantity of life question that if you're not in those shoes, you don't get to decide that.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the people that you're working with right now are the ones that are going through the journey right now. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine what that's like. When I'm really ill, and I do have an autoimmune disease, so that when it flares up, though I think I've healed myself from it, but it's, it's when it used to flare up, it would be such that I just was not able to do anything. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't even get up and feed my children. Like I could, it was nothing, right? It just feels like and it's like, I don't know how I can take that next step.
But you
No,
just do it.
you just do it. You just do it.
I want to talk about something you just said.
Yes.
I think I healed myself from it.
Mhm.
Like I'd love to hear more about that if you want to talk about that.
Okay, so it was kind of I think what it really needed for me was to have, like, my children were really little. They were really little, and I was diagnosed, like they were a year old when I was diagnosed with this autoimmune disease. And I was so sick, and I was so afraid that I was going to leave this earth and not see my children grow up. Like I needed some reason for me to still be here. And the process I think I used was just, it was really tapping into something. So it literally felt like a surrender, and allowing myself to really just receive the energy. And I think of even like the knowing, like shifting, it was a mindset shift. Really, it was like, I choose to live. I am making this choice to get better. I am not going to allow my body to let me down. I am going to make sure that I'm healing it. And I don't know if you've heard that somebody by the name of Carol Look, I think it is her name. She's a neurologist, and she talks about, and so your mindset thing is very much, she talks about the what she calls them, the toxic thought trees, and the healthy. So she actually uses a tree, like this green tree over here, right, as being the healthy thought trees. And the other one she shows is a mangled mess of wires. And when we have this mangled mess of wires that are in our head, is it actually changes the proteins in your body. So if you want to talk about the science, like she does the science behind this. I think I saw her on Lewis Howe one day, and I was like blown away. Oh yeah, I know how this stuff works. And it is, it's like, I got to choose how I wanted to think about my body. I also remember a time when it was a COVID shot, and I was really terrified to have a COVID shot, be a COVID, like for the vaccine. because I have an autoimmune disease or had an autoimmune disease. And I was like, how am I going to allow? Because I was like, I was afraid my body was just going to start fighting it, because that's what an autoimmune disease does, right? It starts to fight. And I was like, how am I going to allow? How am I going to allow this vaccine and these cells to come into my body and integrate and just allow them to do the job, be welcomed, and actually work with the rest of my body? And I literally remember laying in bed and feeling that's how they were being integrated into my being. But I needed to allow it to come in, not to fight it. And I think that's a lot of times that we do, right? We fight, and that's so hurtful. Feels so
We
hurtful.
do. We fight everything. Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
it's really the surrender, right? It's the surrender and the allowing of, I'm inviting this to come and heal myself. I'm allowing it in. I'm allowing it into my being. And you can visualize it. I mean, our brains are so powerful, right? Our imagination is so powerful.
They it, our brains are truly amazing. There are studies that have been done that, even being angry for 5 minutes will impact your immune system for like 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
It'll just decrease the function of your immune system for that long, and that that boggles my mind, right? I mean, I absolutely believe it, and it sounds crazy, right? But I really do think that we can just decide stuff, but we have to be like truly aligned with it, and follow up with action steps. So the healthy thought trees, I need to go look this woman up. Right? That sounds just absolutely right up my alley. It sounds like stuff I need to hear more about, because this platform is to have conversations like this, and to share, and to allow the survivors to pick and choose what kind of alternative wellness modality type things that they want to add to their custom blueprint, right? That that's what and we all do that, right? Like when we lean into something that we're interested in learning about, and we make faces and lean out when we're like, no.
That doesn't
And that
resonate with me.
well, that's part of our body telling us what it wants and what it's not interested in. So, you know, a wide variety of interesting topics that, I don't always resonate with the alternative wellness modality that we're speaking about, but it's not about me. It's about having conversations to spread awareness and let survivors and other people that are going through challenging or traumatic experiences um, have the opportunity to learn about things that may help them.
Yeah. And what resonates with one person does not necessarily resonate with another. But I love
Precisely.
yeah, and I loved your comment about the body, because that's when we need to learn how to recognize our body. Like, remember I talked about being a, was I talking about being
And
a head? Right?
yes, you
So I
did.
was a head for a very long time. And it wasn't until I learned to connect with my body did I really begin to tap into how powerful my intuition was, and how I allowed it to just let me, follow my intuition. So I was making the right decisions. I became very successful after all of that breakdown. I mean, it just, it really did. I started a business at 41, and 42, yeah, 41. I started a business. Bought myself a house at 45, an old Victorian, fixed it all up. And then I had tenants in it. And so I didn't even pay a mortgage. I figured it all out, and it was all intuitive. It was all, connecting with what was going on in my body, but I had to reconnect to my body in order to be able to do that. Right.
Yes.
And that's where our old stories live in our body, but we also know how to create, we can learn how to create that relationship with those stories so that we can heal those.
Yes. I- it- Part of the reason I'm still here is because I listened to my body. I knew there was something going on, and the pap smear was fine. I ended up in the emergency room after having a an episode of just bleeding everywhere for 45 minutes, and then my bathroom sort of looked like the scene from Carrie. And I, like a woman, cleaned the entire bathroom before I left for the emergency, and clean myself instead of just going there in a garbage bag full of blood. I would have been seen a lot sooner if I had done that. But no, we're reasonable, right? So they did an ultrasound and a transvaginal ultrasound, and came back inconclusive or fine. And then they did something called a sonohistogram, which is where they inflate your uterus with saline and then image it, and that came back fine. And my gynecologist, she was exceedingly wonderful. After each test, it was, it was either negative or inconclusive. The next step would be blah blah blah, would you like to proceed? And so the next step was a DNC, and that's how they found my cancer. There were no markers in my blood.
Wow.
Ah, yeah, which a lot of people assume that there's going to be cancer markers in your blood. Most of the time, yes, but it's not a guarantee at all, because there was over 10 pounds of cancer in my body and there was not one marker in my blood. So, yeah, that's the face right there. I had a bowling ball size uterus. A healthy uterus is 4 ounces.
Wow.
When they took mine out, it was over 10 pounds. And yeah, and if I hadn't listened to my body, I would not be here.
Yeah.
That was 17 years ago.
Well, your body knows.
Yes. So I absolutely advocate. So if your body is telling you something, please listen. Please do not put your head in the sand, because the sooner you get a diagnosis, the greater your chance of survival is. And that's just the truth. Ignoring it will not make it go away. Ignoring it will make you go away. And
Mm,
that I have seen it too many times. Friends and family, I have seen it too many times, and I don't want to see it anymore. So I'm constantly telling everybody, go get the testing that you're supposed to be getting when you are supposed to be getting it. And that differs based on your medical background, your age, and you're just going to have to talk to your doctor about what those guidelines are. I cannot tell you what those guidelines are, because they are different for everybody.
mm. Whew.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's my big soapbox. I stand on it all the freaking time. I love that soapbox.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your,
Absolutely.
listen to your intuition. I mean, listen, right? Like, because I know that we'll kind of go, oh no, I really don't want to look at that one. But yeah, no, we really need to.
We do, and I know that it is challenging, and we're not actually taught how to listen. But when your body tells you something, and I'll give you an example, when you meet somebody and the hair on the back of your neck stands up, your body is telling you something.
Mm,
You listen to what your body is telling you. It goes, oh, you're paying attention, and will tell you more.
yeah. There's a process that I teach, and I it's available as well to uh, certainly the hand of the worksheet is it's called emotional alchemy. And what I the way the process really works is that you really stop to listen to identify how you're feeling, like what are the feelings. And most of us really only have, when I first started this, I think I had like 3 words for emotions. My children, my 14-year-olds, they have one: normal. Which isn't even a feeling. But
I
anyways.
what exactly is normal?
Yeah, exactly. Normal is just the average. But I remember one day, actually, I'm going to tell this funny little story because one day I had my feelings and needs list out, and I was sitting in my bedroom and my son came out into the room and I said, "Oh, how are you feeling?" Because I'm trying to do this feelings thing. He goes, "Normal." I said, "Well, normal is not really a feeling. On this list, which one would it be?" And he picked out excited. And I'm like, "You're excited?" I said, "What are you excited about?" He goes, "I'm going to get to play video games with my brother." And here I was all worried that I wasn't doing something right as a mother, when in fact my kids were excited about hanging out with each other. But it's what I love about, and that's kind of a funny little story, but it's kind of like how we are limited. We're not taught, right? First of all, we're not taught to feel. We're not even taught feeling language, right? So what this does is it helps you identify, you go through the list, right? There's two, we know them as positive and negative emotions, but they're really emotions, which are negative. We think of them as negative emotions, as emotions that are telling us that we have needs that are not met.
Hmm.
And the other ones are like when our needs are met, then we feel excited or joyful or peaceful. But when our needs are not being met, these ones show up. And so the process has us go through and identify three of them and reflect back to ourselves what we're feeling, not trying to fix anything. Then we go to the needs list. And in the needs list, we go through and we identify again three things that we need. How many people do you know actually even stop to get their own needs met? Do they even know what they need? So once you've identified what your needs are, then you get to drop into the space of curiosity. And this is where you have to be. Curiosity really is access to spirit. And it's like when we get really curious and we ask ourselves, we just ask, I wonder how I could get that need met. I wonder how this could happen for me. I wonder. Because first of all, we've never, even identified our needs, but now we've got needs. Now we're wondering. We're not trying to fix it. We're just in the state of wonder. And what's going to happen often if you're in that state of wonder? Suddenly your creativity is going to start to come up and you're going to start to tap into this, the whole thing around, oh, what if we did this? Or maybe we could do that. Or maybe we could ask somebody else. Or maybe we could do it for ourselves. So it's, and we get, because when we're curious and we're really open, we have access to all of our intelligence. Whereas if we're in that state of our needs are not being met and we're not doing anything about it, we only have access to a tiny bit of logic. So it's a very powerful process. I use it almost every day, and it's helped me get through my days faster. When I have an emotional issue with somebody or something, it almost doesn't even bother me anymore because I can, oh, right, I can just go through, identify what I need, identify what I'm feeling, then identify what I need, and then jump into curiosity, and then compassion shows up, or curiosity shows up, and I end up am able to resolve my issues really quickly, and I can move through those really quickly. What I
That's
used,
amazing.
yeah, it's what I used the other day when I was like hungover and curled up in a little ball. It's
Is
like,
is is that the gift you're giving away today?
yes, it's one of them. Yeah.
Oh, one of them.
I can give you
Ooh.
two. I actually got three of them, but I'll give you two of them for sure that you can have.
All right. Well, okay, fantastic. What's the other one? I'm now nosy.
Well, the other one is called, mentioned it earlier, was the Chaos to Calm, which is a meditation. It's a 12-minute meditation, and it has a combination because we all come into that place of relaxation in a different way. Like for me, touch is one of my kind of go-to things. And so I can do like the featherlight touch and become really aware of the senses with my eyes closed, and I have to be focusing on it. And that's going to bring me into my calm. but it contains all of them. So some of us are audio, right? Some of us need to, with our eyes closed, or listening. So it's just about bringing our awareness to something else, focusing on something else other than this mind chatter that we have going on. So it
That
helps us
sounds
bring us.
fantastic, Susan. Thank you. I
You're
will make
most welcome.
sure that both of these gifts are in the show notes so that you can find Susan that way. And I really want to thank you for being here today. I enjoyed this conversation immensely.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure and an honor really to be here.
You're welcome. Okay, so now until next time, Cancer Warriors, you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Make your appointments, get your annual exams. You know, I'm going to tell you to do that. Until next time, go get them.